Excellent. We very easily tackled our first component, and then we have two more to go. One of them is going to be the whole list. So the whole list of tours that is being displayed, as well as eventually we're going to work on the each and every tour component. So why don't we start with both of them, at least get the basics. And for this, again, I'm going to have to open up here the sidebar just so you can see where we are creating the components. And then the moment we do that, the moment we set up at least the bare minimum, then I'm going to close it so we can focus more on what we're doing code wise. For this, you know what? I don't like the fact that I have too many tabs open. So I'm going to close the nav bar here. I'm going to say the same for the index. I will going to leave for now the app.js because we're going to have to do our last import into the app.js. But before we can do that, why don't we create more components, the actual folders here within the components folder. So for this, let's do first of all new file, or no, sorry, new folder. Then this guy is going to be the tour list. So we can call this something like this, tour list folder. And then within this tour list folder, we're going to create again two new files. One is going to be tour list actually JS, or we can actually look at index.js because this would be another option what we can do. So let's say if you don't want to create another here JavaScript file, which in our case we did in navbar.js, you can just write here index.js. And what's going to happen is that this is going to be the main file where we're going to be pulling information as we are importing from this folder. Now I'm going to show you how this is going to work in a second. But for now, let's just create a new class-based component. And in this case, as you can see right now, it says, well, this is going to be the index. Well, obviously, we don't want it to be index. So we're going to say that this is going to be class. That is not going to be index. Instead, we're going to call this tour list. So we can call this something like this. And in this case, we can just say hello from tour list for now. However, at the moment, we're not going to be doing anything with it because I still want to set up my tour list SAS file. So I'm going to say new file. Then we can just call this tour list. And again, we would need to use the extension. So extension would be something like this, where we have the SAS extension. And then we're going to be looking for the styling that we're going to add later on. So for now, we can just save the file and that's it. And we're going to be good to go. However, right away, I would also like to have the tour folder where we're going to be holding the information about the tour. And the way this is going to work, again, within the components, we're going to have the new folder. We're going to have the name of tour. And within this tour, you have two options. Again, you can either name your file here as, let's say, tour.js, or you can just leave it as the index.js. It's really up to you. But there's also a third option that I would like to show you. So let's say that we have the tour folder. However, let's imagine that I don't want any of these two options. I don't want to have the navbar.js, which would be the file for this folder, as well as I don't want the index, which automatically is going to be the main one. Well, I have a third option where I can do something like this, where I can say tour. Then I'm going to be looking for the name of the file, which in my case is going to be tour.js. Let's create it as a, again, class-based component. And let's say hello from tour, something like this, as well as we right away can create our file, the other file, and the file that we're going to be creating. And you know what, by the way, I didn't create this in a tour. So let me move this and now I'm going to place it in the tour and let's create our SAS file as well. So let's say tour, then we're going to be looking for the SAS extension. So now we have the extension. For now, again, we're just going to leave it empty. But before we actually move on to the tour list, we can also do something like this. So let's say if I would want this to be the main file, but we don't want to be looking for it the way we did with navbar.js, because remember, we explicitly need to look for components, navbar, and then last, the actual navbar file. We can use the node. And for that, we would need to create a new file. The file is going to be package.json. So it's going to be exactly the same like we have for the root folder. However, this is going to be only for the tour folder. And then we're going to say, no, that's not what we're going to say, but we would have the parentheses. And then we're going to say that the main one is going to be our tour.js. However, obviously this name needs to match. So in our case, I could just say something like this, that the file name is going to be tour.js. Now what's going to happen in this case is that the moment we're going to be looking for the files in the tour, and this is going to be our main file that we're going to be getting. Let me show you how this is going to work. So let's say that we're going to first start working with the tour list. Remember, and in our case, what we would want to do is in the tour list to display each and every tour. So the way I can do that is I can say import, and then I'm going to be looking for the name, since obviously this would be the default export anyway, but we're just going to name a tour, and then I'm going to be looking for my file. So the way this is going to work is obviously I need to leave my folder. Then I'm going to be looking in the tour folder. However, since I set it up here with the package JSON to be the main file, you'll see that this is going to be right away displayed. Now, at the moment, it's not going to be displayed because we're not rendering in an app, but eventually you'll see how this is going to work. So why don't we maybe add some heading one? So this is going to be a little bit distinctive. So let's say end of heading one, something like this. So within the index.js, I'm going to do the import from the tour. And I'll show you the moment we're going to import it in the app.js, why we are preferring to do something like this. And let's say here that we're looking for the tour. So let me save it. And now if I'm going to head over app.js, notice that since we used here index.js for the tour list, we can do similar thing. So in this case, we would say import. Then we're going to be looking for tour list from, and again, this is going to be from the components. Then we're going to be looking for the tour list. And again, we don't need to have the syntax where we're looking for this navbar file because the index is going to be the main one that's going to get imported. And the way this is going to work, can stay something like this. And now we should have two things. One is going to be hello from tour list. And we also can see that our main one was working, our package JSON. So why don't I cover this a little bit in a detail? So the general idea is very simple. We can always write these navbar.js. However, what happens eventually, you might get annoyed. You'll be like, listen, I already have the navbar folder. And then let's say you're going to have some other files here that all are going to meet within your navbar.js. Let's say you're going to have some icons or some kind of links or anything like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to set up your folder. Then you're going to set it up your SAS file, let's say, or any kind of CSS. And then you will going to be only exporting one file from here, from this folder. However, you'll be like, okay, why is it so annoying that I have to write components, navbar, then another navbar? So that way you can use the index.js because that would be the main imported. However, you also could be annoyed by the fact that eventually you're going to have a bunch of index.js files. Imagine if I would have here index.js for the tour, because for the tour list, we did index.js, or for tour.js, we chose to use the package. So that would be also something you need to take into consideration. What do I mean by that? Well, I think that package JSON, since it works exactly the same way, remember in the tour list, we can still import tour without accessing the actual file because we have set up our package JSON. So in our package JSON, we just said, okay, so the main file is going to be our tour.js. And I think that would be a little bit easier option where we're not going to have 10,000 index.js tabs. Because again, for our small application at the moment, yeah, you probably wouldn't care about it. But imagine you're going to have 10 components, 15 components, 100 components, and it gets annoying really, really fast. So that would be something with setting up the folder structure where, again, you have multiple options. You can use navbar.js, basically setting up your file the same name as you have the folder, or in general, just setting up your file. And then you do need to look for that specific file. You have an option of setting up with the index.js, where you just set it up that this is going to be index.js, and that's going to be the main thing that's going to be exported right away from the actual folder. Or you can use package JSON, and that way you can set up the main one. Again, you're going to be the one who is going to be deciding which syntax and which structure makes sense more to you. I just wanted to show you your possible options so later on you can make your own decisions based on your preferences.